So would you like to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. Hello. I didn't look at the camera then, that's really awkward. Hello, I'm Serena. I was the Queen Mary Students' Union President last year. Um, and I ran in 2023. How about you, Rahma?
Thank you for already saying my full legal name. So, hi everyone, I'm Rahma. I'm the current BLSA President. I'm studying medicine, finished 4 years of it, I have 1 year left. Yeah, hopefully inshallah I'll be a finalist. Like I know I will be a finalist next year. Let's crack on with the interview before we start,
So the president role, gosh, I guess like the formal stuff that you can see on my LinkedIn is that you're a trustee of Queen Mary University of London, which is quite cool, which essentially means you get to sit in like the highest governing space in Queen Mary called Council. You're the only student member, but you have the great company of the BLSA President. And also last year we managed to get another SAB, which is really cool. But you are involved in all the kind of governance, financial conversations, educational conversations, and you have a space to talk about and amplify student problems with the trustees of the university, which is huge because they're the ones who truly hold the president and principal to account. But other than that, you chair the board of trustees, which is part of the students' union, and you help govern and lead the strategy in the students' union. You're in a million spaces. You lead on your manifesto pledges. You get asked to do graduation speeches. You react to crises on campus and externally. You're part of the Russell Group Students' Union. Last year we were part of the London Student Assembly. But yeah, I don't know what to say. You're just in loads of spaces and you get to do loads of things and you get to understand what universities are like and help shape it and amplify the student voice.
I always struggle to explain everything that BLSA President does. The assumption is that they only represent medics. That's not the case at all. The BLSA President actually represents all students in the university, but focuses mainly on Barton and London students, so medicine, dentistry, allied health courses, which also includes all the postgraduate degrees at Charterhouse Square, for example, or the Blizzard Institute. So you represent them in terms of their education, their welfare, and so on and so forth. If I'd start by saying that, well, obviously BLSA President because you chair the BLSA board, and so you're responsible of all the zones in terms of activity zones, welfare zones, operational zones, and sort of the strategy and governance also of BLSA. But obviously you have all your reps and officers as well, and so you work with them. You don't do everything. They do most of the jobs that are within their remits and areas, and you're there to help them, support them, or escalate certain things to higher up places because that's where you will be. You're also on all the educational committees of the medical school, and so you have an immense opportunity to influence change and participate in, actually shaping the curriculum, the assessments, and the experience of medical students across all of the 5 years. You are also on the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry Executive Board and other places, which sometimes it feels like you don't know what's happening, but other times it feels so interesting to know how these higher up spaces work and how truly your university works as well. So this is in terms of just medicine and dentistry. And then you have other hats within QMSU because you're also a QMSU Executive Officer. So you are trustee of the Students' Union. You also are part of different educational boards that are on a university level. You sit on Senate as a member. So Senate is the highest governance body in terms of academia and academic regulations. You are also on council with the QMSU President. What else do? And generally, the role gives you so much power to do anything. You're in close contact with the senior leadership of the university, and so you can escalate anything to them, or you can also keep the university accountable, which is what essentially you are actually elected for, and you can do a lot of different things in terms of the students' union, shaping that, improving that. So there's so much that you can do, and you're also BLSA President of the Malta BLSA, but you're also overseeing that as well. So that's also quite cool. This year, for example, I'm one of the delegates for the Russell Group Students' Union. So I've recently gone to Belfast, but there's also different, online meetings and different working groups that focus on making a change on a national level. So yeah, I feel like I've forgotten many things already, but you have so many hats on: a BLSA board hat, a medical education hat, a strategy hat, a let's just change everything hat. And so we'll get into that later on. But there is so much that you can do, which I think it's a beauty, and I think it's the special, like it's special about both this role and your role as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gosh, no, that's so good. Sorry, this is side note. Thing I find really fascinating about like the BLSA president is that you've got like such a heavy education focus, and then like these presidential like responsibilities, and it's like the combustion of like a education tab. I say education, like a faculty tab and the president role, and it's just super interesting to observe.
And you're so much in contact with like alumni. So obviously Bath and the London have such a rich alumni network. There's so many external things that you do outside of the university as well that you might be involved in. But yeah, and then there's the operational hat, which I forgot about actually, all the garage building things. So like all of a sudden you find yourself like a businesswoman in disguise, an academic, or sometimes you're like, yeah, it's just it's quite interesting.
Okay, I was scrolling through my pictures of my time as an officer yesterday, which sounds really sad. But it was just because I was sending them to the previous BLSA president actually. And I saw.
Sorry, I had to because I she didn't send them to me, and they remember that mom years.
He wasn't current.
Yeah, thank you.
I was looking through my pictures, and like there are obviously like really cool moments, like the toilet door, amazing. Recreating Rishi Sunak's election stuff was fun, and there were so many moments like doing the speech at my own graduation was super cool. But I think like the thing that students don't see about the role that I think we're trying to explain when we're talking about all the different responsibilities is like actually those moments where you feel like you're making progress as an advocate on behalf of students in spaces they're not in. And so last year, obviously, there was a lot that happened. We had the encampment. I think it was quite known across campus that the Students' Union wasn't happy with how students were being treated. And we tried really hard to like work with the university. It didn't really work. And then we ended up escalating and taking a letter to council. And it's kind of a weird thing to say it was my best memory, because at the time it was horrible and really stressful. But it was like during that council meeting, and we'd had council meetings prior where I'd felt really vulnerable and it was hard. But during that council meeting, I'd never felt more comfortable and confident in what I was saying. And to have that in a space which is so intimidating, with the highest people in the university and such qualified people around, like that's something I look back on and I'm like, oh my gosh, I did that. And I didn't do it alone. I had the support of the students, I had the support of my SABs. My BLSA president came through in that meeting really well. And also like senior management in the SU were great, but it's just something that I look back on and I'm like, I utilised the space and the role that I was meant to have and meant to do, because the SU president is meant to advocate. All exec officers are meant to advocate. And I feel like I did my job, and it was the one time I felt like over the whole year I'd never felt satisfied with how I'd been, and I've got like a really weird cringy video. Insert here, no, don't. A video of me like at the end of council, like so happy. And it was like the moment that I was like, I've done my job. I didn't realise I hadn't, because then the encampment got kicked out the day after, which was really hard. But like I'd done as much as I could, and then I was just leaving it to the next sub team. I was like, but I'm really like that's a core moment for me. But how about you, Rahma? So far, what's your best memory? Sorry.
Okay, so I'll start with like more the like one of the wholesome memories with students. And I think I think there's quite a few actually. It's hard to choose. I think freshers was absolutely wholesome. So the freshers fair at BL. I love our student body and I love our community and how close it is, and just seeing all the students, all society and volunteering groups, and it was a sunny day as well, so it felt like magical and everyone was having fun. It was so nice. So that's a cool memory as well of that day. And I remember just like going around all the souls and getting all their stickers and just putting them on my shirt. Another another cool memory, it was Malta. So I went to visit Malta because, as I said, you also overseeing the Malta BLSA there and the students there. So you represent them also in terms of education, welfare and everything. So it was really nice having the opportunity, meeting the students. But also part of like what made it also a bit special is the fact that we managed to go there for the first time, and being there as a backing to the BLSA that is there, but also the fact that we managed to unpick and truly speak about two serious issues that they had, in terms of like one was like accommodation, the other one was free speech, and the fact that we sort of solved it, and it was quite tough in the meetings, but the relief that you have at the end, and just seeing them relieved and smiley and happy, and feeling like it made a difference to them there, and then coming back, it's just a beautiful sort of like memory as such. You have the chance to make a positive change that will influence students and impact students, and because it's such a responsibility, it's such an honor to represent all these students. And yes, definitely all of us SABs or reps have it, like one of our core responsibilities is to be the voice of students, especially in the uncomfortable topics, in the sensitive topics, because that's why they elected us for, really. But yeah. Next question.
How's the role shaped you since, professionally and personally, which you actually can answer to because it would have shaped you already within your first semester? Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think I'm just gonna focus on what I've learned or like reflected on so far, because shaped me since, as you said, I've not finished yet. I think as we've all described so far, you have so many different hats on, you're in so many different spaces, that I think you learn a lot when it comes to interacting with people. And it's not just people with different personalities, people with different priorities, people with different aims and wants. So you obviously interact with the students, which, we all know what students might want in terms of like their education, their welfare, or if it's social justice, for example, or Palestine, or free speech, and so on. They interact with academics or like more junior staff members that have different priorities and aims, and also different remits, like they can do so much. And then you interact a lot with the senior management or like senior level people. It's about adapting how you address those audiences to essentially achieve what you are here for, which is whether it's your manifesto points or what the students have, mandated you with. Once you're in this position, you are essentially catering how you word yourself, or like how to negotiate. It's all about negotiation skills. I feel like I've just been doing that since I've been elected, essentially. Like nothing comes like, oh, I want this, please give it to me. Like, yeah, sometimes, but a lot of it is about convincing the other person why should they do it for you. What's the benefit for their end, right? And so it's about understanding how, like, also it comes from understanding financial status of the university and the institute, the regulations that are behind it. It's about understanding also where the student rights and the students' wants fit in all of this, and understanding all the different like stakeholders and the weight that they have. That has been fundamental. I mean, I've had some experience of it as a student rep before, but obviously when you get to this role, all the like everything just opens up, you know, you just see everything. How it has shaped me, I think I have completely gone outside of my comfort zone fully. I feel like in this role sometimes you actually see yourself, you know, not debating it, but you're there with your values and your beliefs and who you are as a person, and then you have in front of you all the different obstacles and all the wants of everyone else, and so it's about working with that really, because at the same time I think the most important thing is that you don't do such a job which requires a lot, and you're doing it for so many different reasons and lose yourself in the process, because if you've done that, then yeah.
That's so deep.
Sorry. I feel it's quite a reflection, like university setting or the SU setting is a reflection of also a lot of different jobs and society. You are in such senior positions sometimes that you won't reach that level until until quite late in your careers, and so that's why like there's a lot to reflect on, and there's a lot to learn from other people as well, from seeing how they all interact with each other.
How's the role shaped me since personally and professionally? Personally, I learned so much about myself, which I feel like you've touched upon too. I learned that I'm way more stronger and capable than I believe. That I can literally do anything. Alhamdulillah, gosh. Not me like boasting, but like the role really threw me out my comfort zone, and I think I thrived. I feel like I thrived, even though it was so difficult. And like you will know, because I was voice noting you so much at different points last year. It was so stressful and exhausting and tiring, but it's great. Still apply. It's good. It like it's because it's new. It's that thing, like you have teething problems. You're trying to find your bearings. It's a job unlike any other, and I truly believe that if you do a SAB role, like the odds are you're going to find whatever job you go into next a lot easier. Because a SAB role tests you. You're balancing hats, you're balancing responsibilities, stakeholders. Amazing. So personally, it's just given me a lot of self-belief that I hadn't had. And I'm really grateful for that. Professionally, it's taught me a lot about workplaces, workplace politics, how kind of roles work, how to navigate the workplace, but also how important it is for, regardless at what stage in your career you're entering something, to have so much self-respect. And if your next workplace doesn't respect you having self-respect, then there's a problem with that workplace, not with you. Like, have boundaries. I think a lot of SABs don't have boundaries, and you only learn by the end that you need them. Have boundaries. Take your lunch. Leave on time. Take your toil. Realize how much you're giving an organization. I'm giving you tips now.
Yeah, I'm just going to like it's well, I'll let you finish and then I'll just comment.
But as a SAB, you're in this weird kind of purgatory. You're in this purgatory between being a student and being an employee, and like it's so difficult to balance, especially when you've got friends who are still students and studying, or when like your biggest stakeholder are students, so you naturally like mold to them. You do student council after work because you have no choice but to, and it can really blur the lines. But like upon reflection, since I've done the role and now I'm sat back and I'm looking and I'm doing new bits of work, I'm like, I know who I am in the workplace, and that's great. And I also have been able to psychologically break down the person I was last year and figure out who I want to be now. And like the SAB role, like it just speeds everything up. What could take maybe like a couple of jobs early on in your career to learn things about yourself, you can do in 1 year. So Highly recommend.
This was actually my first ever job.
That's crazy.
You know, you say it's 9 to 5, it's never 9 to 5. But I think it's, as you said, it's about learning boundaries. So you constantly thinking about students, because some of these students are your peers, some of them are your friends, some of them, you know, you just have, you know, serious concerns, and they're still like you're still representing them. And so when you care a lot as well, it can take a toll on you if you just don't take a break. That was at the beginning, because it was my first ever job. It took a lot of time to adjust, and adjusting also because, I mean, you lead a board of 30 almost reps and officers, by the way. And so it's going into like, okay, you're essentially a leader. And so learning in practice how to be an effective, inspiring, and like caring and, you know, thoughtful leader for them, even when you're under pressure and stress. And it comes from also learning to communicate really well with your team members, and being a team member with them, in terms of like, I don't know, just even like getting your like first pay slip or like taxes and whatnot, and just understanding stuff. But also, just to say, I know I've gone quite deep into my response, but you learn so much. Like you grow up so much as a person. It's invaluable. It's actually invaluable. And going outside of your comfort zone, it's not always in bad sense. It's sometimes really in good sense. So like even like the networking aspect of it, or going out to someone and saying, hi, how are you? How are you finding it? It's just like sometimes, you know, I've always been quite extroverted, but sometimes I've had moments of like, no, I can't, like, I don't feel comfortable. And now it just comes natural that I'm just like sat there from a third person perspective, looking at myself like, what happened to you? Do you know what I mean? And so you actually grow up so much as a person that I'd highly recommend it. I think it's an invaluable experience that will shape you in a way that you'd be ready for anything.
I would set boundaries. There we go. I would probably give myself more grace and like more breathing space. I think that the job is so back to back, which is a good thing. It's back to back in a different way in different spaces, but it means that your Monday to Friday is like meetings and boards and you know, events and you know, when you get around to it, like manifesto pledges, that you don't actually have time to sit down and like breathe. And one thing I learned in the second semester more so, and I think it wasn't just me, it was like a lot of my subs in my team, was that actually cancel the meeting. If I don't need to be there, I'm not going. Which maybe people don't want to hear, but you need to value your time, and if you need time to think, because thinking is like a part of the job. If you need time to think, make the time to think. Like that is what I would do differently. And I think I got really good at it in the end. Like I had my boundaries. I knew when I needed time for myself. I knew when I needed time to prepare for meetings. And I don't think it's something that, as a young worker, I don't think we do it enough because we're worried. But it was something I learned off Matthew. Matthew was incredible at it. Matthew would say, I can't do all of this. I'm gonna have to pick, and it's be decisive and like put yourself first, because it will only benefit everyone in the SU, because you'll have more time to think about how you're going to like properly apply yourself in different spaces. And so I would do that from day one in the job. My piece of advice I'd give to someone running, first of all, run, like actually go for a roll. If you're thinking about it, just do it. But genuinely, like if you've got a niggling feeling in you that you want to run, just go for it. Don't be scared. No one actually cares. Like in the nicest way possible. Don't overthink campaigning. Don't overthink anything. Just go for it. I remember literally applying like the night or like on the day I put my nomination in or something. It was something ridiculous. And then I had so much fun during the campaigning time, and then I won. So you've got nothing to lose. It's an experience that hopefully when you win, it's going to shape like the trajectory of how you think and how you are as a person. I don't think no SAB, like I feel like every SAB will leave and say that. You know, even if they've had difficult experiences, it still shapes you. and gives you insight into the workplace and activism and even politics and HE and all of that. Enjoy campaigning. Don't take it too seriously. Remember that students like to have a laugh as well. So like have a laugh with your campaign, make it a fun time for you and less stressful. And then hopefully when you get the job, like make it a fun year. It's never that deep. And in the moment, it feels that deep. Like it feels like the biggest thing in the world. But actually, when you take a step back, you realize it isn't. And, you know, I think that's so important. And there's a whole team of SU staff to help. And hopefully, if your successor wants to, they'll continue things for you. God knows, like, just like have fun, breathe, after yourself. Like it goes really quickly.
And part of it, as you said, it is about taking breaks and also allowing yourself to prioritize the task, but also prioritize yourself. Because if you're not prioritizing yourself, you won't be able to give as much as you want. A lot of the times I have constant back-to-back meetings, like 9 to 5. And so I'm like, okay, when am I supposed to look at the hundreds of emails I have? So obviously I do it after. So then I discovered that I can block my calendar and be like, and actually put like, I don't know, an hour or two for like emails and projects. And so I just started doing that. So it's obviously it's always a learning progress. And also when you come to like decide what your projects are, or what you want, like choose those that you're passionate about, those that are also realistic, and those that the students need the most. And I think a combination of all of these, you should like prioritize those and then leave the smaller bits. Or if you have smaller bits that you can delegate, then do that. Sometimes, by the way, the project could just be an email being sent and it's done, or something said in a meeting. So I think build on the things that you need to work really long term for. Also appreciate that you can't save the world and you can't just achieve everything, and so it's appreciate like the grace that you give yourself and others as well, on what can be achieved or what can be done. And a small change, a small impact, even if it's just a one piece of the puzzle that will of the bigger image is a lot, whether you think it or not. Like I think a lot of the things that we do right now, or that we are allowed to do right now, build on years and years of other SABs or other, members of staff that have worked hard for, or that have, planted that seed. And so don't worry if you can't achieve it all, because there will be obstacles. A lot of them are financial, unfortunately. I wish we were all, our institution was super rich that could fund anything, but that's not always the case. A lot of them, it's just too many policies and regulations and external pressure, politics. Like, let's, seriously, it's so much that is in place. This is like, don't be a candle that lights everyone else and burns itself. And I think that's also very important when it comes to like, okay, don't make that face. I'm not. It's more of setting boundaries, and I think these jobs are really important, like really help you do that, because you do have support, you have people to rely on. And I think in other jobs you might actually be left to yourself to deal with and put those boundaries and deal with them. But here you get used to that. You get used to that kind of mindset. It's like you have time to get used to it. And obviously, as I said, that was my first job, so it was also a learning progress, which I'm actually very grateful for, and definitely enjoy it, because it's mostly nice, by the way, because but sometimes you also might have moments that are a bit harder, and these moments that are a bit harder might completely cloud everything else. It's reminding yourself why you did it, and reminding yourself that it's 1 year, reminding yourself that you also want to enjoy it, and you want to go back to like when you think back to it, you want to be happy with it. But also, honestly, don't be too hard on yourself. It's understanding that it's fine if not everything is top notch, because that is most of jobs in the world. Okay, thank you everyone for listening. One for QMSU Press, one for BLSA President, best job in the world, and objectively.
Subscribe, like and subscribe.